Howdy folks, Jamboriki here, and I've been to see Despicable Me 3 today, the newest film from Illumination Entertainment. In this Despicable Me movie, Gru ends up meeting his twin brother Drew, and goes up against a new villain called Balthazar Brad, a former 80s child star turned bad guy. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. This movie is a mess. It's got the same problem as Despicable Me 2. It's got too many plots at hand. You've got Gru and Lucy pursuing new jobs, Gru finding out that he's got a twin brother, Gru considering that he's going to be a villain again, the minions abandon Gru and end up in prison, Lucy is struggling to be a stepmom, Agnes is going off to a forest to find a unicorn, Margot has ended up being engaged, and while all this is happening, Balthazar Brad, the villain of the film, just sits in his lair talking to his robot friend and looking back on his past as a child star. Yes, the first Despicable Me, which I think is just okay, is very simplistic in terms of story, but that's the charm of it. It knew what it wanted to be, it didn't try too hard, it didn't try to aim too high, it just had fun with what little it had. The problem with Despicable Me 3 is that it's on the opposite side of the spectrum to a really annoying degree. Too much is happening, it's got too many ideas, and it doesn't know how to gel them all together. Because of this, Despicable Me 3 lacks any kind of identity or point. At least with Despicable Me 2, I could say, well, it's about Gru becoming a spy. In this one, I don't know. I don't know what the focus is supposed to be. I guess you could say it's about the brothers, but there's all this other stuff happening too. But let's talk about the twin sibling aspect of the film. I like what the film was going for. It is interesting seeing Gru meet a family member that actually loves him in return. He's not really had that much in his life. That's nice to see. But Drew is so annoying. He is beyond irritating. I know a lot of people find the minions annoying. Oh boy, you don't know. You don't know. Drew is like the Jar Jar Binks of Illumination Entertainment. Steve Carell, who is the voice of Gru, also voices Drew, and the voice he does for Drew is just painful. It's like the directors just told him, well, you know the voice you do for Gru? Can you turn it up to 20?
Gru!
Drew!
No.
Brother, I am
I'm so happy!
Someone actually compared Steve Carell's voice for Drew to Adam Sandler's role as Jill in Jack and Jill. And while that sounds harsh, I can see where they're coming from. Yes, the film points out that he's annoying, but that doesn't make him any less irritating. The great thing about likable annoying characters is that they will annoy other characters, but not the audience. Then you've got Lucy adapting to being a stepmom, which I did not like at all because they've taken the Lucy character too far. She's too childish, too immature, and when it gets to a point where Lucy is asking Margot for parenting tips, you really have to question the character herself. Then you've got Agnes trying to find a unicorn, which is cute, but I kept thinking, what's the point? There's other stuff going off, there's bigger stuff happening. Why are we focusing on a little girl trying to find a unicorn? And like I said, Margot does get engaged in this film. Accidentally, not on purpose. And Lucy does step in, and there was a nice part of the film. It happens. That's the thing with a lot of the plots in this film, they just happen. They don't really have anything to do with Balthazar Brad or Drew and Gru, they're just happening in the background. The minions aren't in the film as much as they were in Despicable Me 2, they're mainly in prison. But it's still kind of annoying how the film is cutting to them. We don't really need to see them in prison. It takes up valuable time that could be used to develop other things and make the whole narrative more cohesive and connected. Once again, the minions are clearly only in the film because they're popular, not because it makes the story work. Then we have Balthazar Brad, and like I said, he does spend most of the movie just sat in his lair planning things and talking to his robot. It's kind of unfortunate because he's voiced by Trey Parker, the co-creator of South Park, and he is so good in the role. He's clearly having a load of fun behind the microphone, really getting into it. You're probably wondering, why is the co-creator of South Park in a kids movie? Well, it turns out that he agreed to the role because he wanted to make something that his 2-year-old daughter could see, which is really sweet.
Dance fight!
My biggest problem with his character, though, is that the film is always building up this tension between Gru and Balthazar, but I don't feel it. There's one thing to say that there's tension and history between two characters who've been at it for years, but it's another to actually show it and convince us that there's something there. And because of that, when they finally confront towards the end of the film, I don't feel anything. I don't feel any kind of bitter rivalry. And the thing is, Balthazar doesn't really get much screen time, which I did not like as a South Park fan. I wanted a lot of Trey Parker in this film, and his parts in this movie are very bite-sized. But I do like how the filmmakers embrace the 80s aesthetics of Balthazar, in terms of character, personality, design, environment, weapons, all kinds of things. We even get to see a commercial for a toy that Balthazar released of himself, and this advert is just pure 80s. It's soaked in 80s. The commercial feels like it's from that era, and the toy feels like it's from that time. To conclude, this movie is a mess. It doesn't know how to utilize its characters, it doesn't know how to tell a story, it doesn't know what it's doing, where it's going. It's clueless. Sure, some people will watch this movie, turn off their brains and just enjoy the craziness, but I didn't find it to be that kind of movie. It's not a fun ride to me. Most of this movie I was just performing mental gymnastics because I kept thinking, what's the point? Where are you going with this? Where is this leading? If you're going to go into this movie as a South Park fan, you may be disappointed because there's very little Trey Parker, and in between all the great Trey Parker scenes are just nonsensical, silly scenes. I have to say that this was definitely the worst Despicable Me movie. I'd say it's worse than 2 mainly because of Drew. I could not stand Drew. I really couldn't. I couldn't tolerate his presence in this movie. He got in the way, he had an annoying personality, he was too over the top, his voiceover was ridiculously irritating. Now, I didn't really have much of an expectation when going into this movie. I wasn't really hoping for something amazing because I'm not a huge Despicable Me fan, I just think they're okay movies. But this one is definitely a downward spiral. So, have you seen Despicable Me 3? If you have, then let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. I've been Jamboriki and I hope you enjoyed this review. Please consider supporting me on my Patreon. Cheerio, folks.